This week's sponsor is Hypath, 2-in-1 luggage. If you dream about traveling the world with carry-on only, go to Amazon and type in HYPATH to check out their unique design and use coupon code JohnnyFD for 10% off. That's HYPATH on Amazon.
Welcome to the Travel Like a Boss podcast, where we interview location-independent entrepreneurs that travel the world like a boss by being their own boss. Here's your host, Johnny FD.
Hey, so guys, this is Johnny, and welcome to episode 207 of the Travel Like a Boss podcast. I am back in Chiang Mai, Thailand, and I am with Howard from LA, California.
Yo, what's going on, dude?
Dude, it's good to have you here. It's good to reminisce and talk about life back in LA.
Yeah, man, thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's been fun. So, do you want to just briefly kind of talk about who you... Yeah, I guess... Actually, you know what? Let's talk about how we met. I think that's interesting.
Yeah, we had a friendship before you realized it, Johnny. I have been, following Johnny FD on YouTube, and he was kind of like one of the bigger inspirations for us actually moving to Thailand. So I think he's one of the first people to open up this whole kind of world to us. So I was following him and a few other vloggers, and ended up making my way down here, and was on YouTube one day, and his feed popped up, and it was my new apartment in Chiang Mai. And so I sent him a text. It's like, yo, Johnny, you don't know who I am, but we've been friends for a while, and you want to come kick it and hang out. So he sent me a text, was like, yeah, come down to this meetup. And so I did, and he was there, said what's up, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I think it was a Instagram DM, right? Well, I don't remember. Was it a Facebook message?
It was a Facebook message.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like Facebook messages, because then I can kind of see if the person's kind of like a normal person.
If I'm a creeper.
Yeah, seriously. I'll be like, okay, like, do they have a profile photo? If not, like, or if it's some weird,
like sunsets?
Yeah. I'm like, okay, do they have a normal profile photo? Do they have like a normal name? Do they have just like, some normal activity on their Facebook?
I figured that would be the case. Yeah.
Do they have friends?
Yeah. I don't have that many friends. No.
But I was like, okay, this is a normal guy. He has a girlfriend. He's like, like we probably have something in common because we're both from Southern California. I think here's kind of my I don't want to say my requirements, but kind of just what I look for before I meet people up. First, I'm like, okay, are they like a normal person with a photo and a normal name? Second, do they have any like big red flags that they'd be like weird, right? Or like a socially awkward creeper, right? Mm-hmm. And then third is like, is there anything that we would have in common? Because I'm sure there's a lot of like nice people out there, but if I have nothing in common with them, it's just awkward to like meet up and hang out.
Yeah, so I'm glad you gave us that list, so now we know how to bypass
how to hack it,
how to hack your list.
Yeah, I guess you can start like liking the same Facebook pages as me. Change your location to like say San Francisco or California.
That's right. I'm creating a Facebook profile as we speak.
Yeah, have a pretend girlfriend. Yeah, but yeah, so it was cool hanging out, and then it was really interesting because, we both, lived in LA, both Asian Americans. We have some like mutual friends and mutual enemies.
Yep.
Yeah. And just like, a lot of it is not even just the people, just like the enemies as in like cost of living in LA and other kind of BS.
Seriously.
Yeah. So that's why I wanted to have you on the show, is just to kind of like talk about some of the things that someone who is just starting this lifestyle, just moving out, goes through. Because how long have you been here in Thailand now?
We've been here for about 3 weeks, maybe almost 4 weeks now. Okay. Yeah.
And what were you doing before? Can you kind of just briefly go over your life back in LA?
Yeah, I had an import-export business, and I still do, and do some real estate investing and, just kind of like a lifetime entrepreneur. I had a job when I was like 16, and I worked for Circuit City.
Yeah, so, nice. I worked for Best Buy. And actually, I worked for Good Guys when I was like 17 or 18.
All right, were you doing like the car installs and stuff?
No, I wish. That sounds more fun. My first job was sales in PE, which is personal electronics. They actually closed that department, and they basically said to all of us, we have to let half of you go, or you can work in the stockroom. And I really didn't want to work in the stockroom. So I said, like, look, if you have to let me go, let me go. But what happened was the people that committed to moving the stockroom, they had to take off the suit, take off the shirt and tie, put on the black good guys t-shirt, take a pay cut, work in the stockroom.
Ugh.
Everyone else, I think one person might have got just fired because they sucked. Everyone else, they actually promoted us. So that was my first time just kind of gambling career-wise and realizing sometimes, you have to go after what you want.
That's interesting. Yeah. Whoa. Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah. I mean, yeah. So, we worked at Circuit City for a while, and then, that's more or less it, man. I stopped when I was around 17, maybe 18 years old. And then, I've just been running like businesses ever since, just being like this kind of solo one-man band or, really small business owner. So that's pretty much where I'm at.
So how did you learn that? I mean, you started at a pretty young age.
Yeah. Yeah. I started when I was like 16. I was actually doing it as a side hustle to Circuit City because I was still in high school. So back in the day, it was just, you want to hustle money for paying for wheels and cars and body kits and car stereos. And so that's what we were kind of doing, saving up for college and eating out with friends, just the typical teenage stuff,
What car did you have at the time?
I had a 94 Honda Accord. That was my baby, man. I love that. I still love that thing to this day. I ended up selling that car for inventory.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. At
That's
some
dedication
point.
though, right?
Yeah, it was. I tore that thing to bits.
So was it riced out?
It was riced out. It was, had a gritty exhaust, Racing Heart C2s, had a body kit and all that stuff. It had like, like Pioneer stereo, all that stuff. And, I started slinging wheels and I ended up like tearing out the interior to fit more wheels on the car. Like literally I took the back seats out, the door panels out, everything. It basically turned into like, like a quarter-mile car. Like it was just like a car seat and, a steering wheel and an all-metal body. And I did that so I could fit, aftermarket wheels and tires in the car. I basically turned it into a truck. And so it was a pretty unpleasant experience. And once I essentially beat that Honda to death, I traded it in for more inventory.
That's cool. Yeah, I was going to say, like, have you never heard of a pickup truck? That's what most people
Hey, man,
haul
you poor dude,
in.
and you poor kid. And that's what you got to work with. So you had to make it work, man. You had to make it work.
So I think in 206 episodes, I never talked about my ricer phase. I had a Toyota Celica.
Okay.
It was, I think it was, I want to say 2000 and, man, I can't remember anymore. But it wasn't the newer body style. It was the older one, maybe like 2007 or something.
Okay.
And luckily it was stick shift. So at least I had that.
That's cool. Yeah.
But it was the base model ST. And what I did was I had, I don't know what kind of rims they were, but some kind of aftermarket rims. I remember the size. They were 215, maybe 45 17s.
Okay. I mean, how long? What is this? Like 2000?
Yeah.
Those were big wheels back like 2000s.
I know,
like 20s were like the jam, man. 20s were like crazy, I
had the car was originally red, and then I did a black paint. I painted it black with a red pearl. I shaved off the wings, shaved off the badges.
Nice.
I redid the interior to be like pleather.
Okay.
Put in carbon fiber dash.
Do you shave the door handles?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
I wanted to.
But you got the moldings though, right? You shaved the moldings?
I only shaved off the front and the back. I filled in the emblems.
Okay.
I shaved off the emblems, and that way it just looked clean. Right?
Yeah.
And I don't know what kind of amp I had. I think a Rockford Fosgate amp.
Okay. I remember those.
A 12-inch JL sub.
Okay.
Subwoofer for you guys who aren't audio nerds. I had a 1 farad capacitor in there.
Yeah. Okay. Nice.
I had I had new tweeters. I had a lot of money in this car.
Yeah.
And it's stupid because first off, I didn't have any money. I actually used student loan money to pay for all this. And then second, I only did it because I thought it would get me girls. I really did.
Isn't that why any guy does anything on earth?
It's embarrassing to say, but I really was. And I don't think girls actually cared at all. And I think most girls listening to this podcast are like, I don't even know what you're talking about, Johnny.
You see that, ladies? How much work we go through.
Yeah. So that was my car stage. So just kind of reminiscing with you and just talking about, the car stuff kind of reminded me of the mindset that I was in when I was living in Southern California. And I think a lot of people are still in now where they take all their money, all their savings, all their time, put it towards fixing up a car or stuff. Uh-huh. And they say, I don't have time or money to travel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially living in LA, it's real tempting to kind of, get caught up in that cycle, and we're all in it. I still like nice stuff too. And it is stupid, right? Like, there's no need to have, a Rolex when you can have a Casio. Actually the Casio is better because it's easier to read and it's waterproof, and it tells time and does everything you need. Really, there's no reason for a lot of that stuff. So yes, it is kind of, you just spend your life working to afford to buy these things, to lose your wealth, and then to start over and do it again. Luckily, my uncle mentored me from a really early age. And so, he was a self-made businessman too. And so it kind of taught me about the value of compounding and the stock market and stuff. And so, even though I did fall into it, it wasn't maybe not as bad as a lot of others. I had this sort of exposure, had this sort of understanding that money can compound, and compound interest is the most powerful thing in the universe. And so I did have some modicum of understanding from a very early age. And so that's kind of, what I did. I started, slanging, worked at Circuit City, did a side business, and it got bigger and bigger, and, changed to another business, got bigger and bigger. I got a warehouse and moved warehouses, got into real estate. So, I did kind of, at the same time, a big thing is just to not spend money, right? And save your wealth, because, $1 becomes, $1.10, and $1.10 compounds to $1.20. And, and especially when the numbers get bigger and bigger, they begin to move much more quickly.
So did you ever go to college or anything?
Yeah. I ended up, I had a business when I was 16 and then 18, and then I went to JC because, I grew up pretty poor.
Which is junior college, community college.
Yeah, I went to Pierce College, which is in the Valley, and I had to pay for all that myself. And then I went to UC Irvine, and I had a business out there, and I had a warehouse in Costa Mesa, which is nearby, and I was running a different business by then. And I put myself through UCI too, and so it's just
so you put yourself through college?
Yeah. I didn't come from a rich family, my parents were divorced. And so, you just kind of just do what you can. I grew up single mother, immigrant parents. And, so, money was always tight. And I remember just even being a little kid being really pissed off because I was really frustrated, right? To just not have anything. It was really frustrating. I remember my mom used to tell me that she had to train me when I was a little kid, when I go to Toys R Us, not to throw a shit fit. She's like, well, go in here, but you can't cry and you can't be upset, this and that. And I remember being a kid, hearing my parents argue about money and stuff, and being like, I'm really fed up with the grasp that poverty has on my life, or not having money. So
yeah, I grew up kind of similar, but the weird thing about me was I don't remember ever asking for anything. I wouldn't ask for much because I think I would hear my parents fight about money. So just from a really early age, I just never asked for anything. Yeah. So I just didn't want, because I think what would happen is they would always say yes, because my mom is just the
guilt,
type, Yeah. And also she wants to save face.
Yeah.
So especially if I said it in public, she would never say, oh, we can't afford it.
Right.
She would buy it. And then afterwards, my parents are going to fight about how they can't afford it behind closed doors, which are thin doors. And as a kid, you're like, oh man, I shouldn't have asked for this Lego because, it's not worth it.
Yeah.
So I never asked for anything as a kid growing up.
Yeah. Yeah. That's pretty rough, man. I mean, that'll grow you up real quick.
Yeah.
It's a shitty way to kind of do it, but I think it's like how 90% of the population lives, right? So a lot of people grow up with that sort of same story.
Yeah. And I remember even when I went to college, I went to UC Irvine as well, which is funny because I think we went at the same time.
Yep.
And we had mutual friends and we never met.
Yep.
Which is crazy.
Yep.
But I remember having a couple jobs at any given time there. When I was at UC Irvine, I was working at Best Buy. I was also a valet parker. And I think at some point I might have had a third job or something, but I don't remember what it was now. I used to be a note taker for one of my classes, actually. They used to pay me for it.
Work for a rich kid that would pay you to go to class for him, take notes for him.
I wish I could say that. No, actually what it was I was one of the first people taking notes on a digitized device. This was actually before laptops were common or popular. I had a Palm Pilot.
Okay.
And a foldable keyboard.
I used to sell those.
And I used to take notes on it. And I remember one time my professor came up to me after class and he said, "Hey, can I talk to you?" He's like, "I see you, taking notes." I was like, "Oh man, am I gonna get in trouble for this?"
Yeah.
And he's like, "Hey, can you give me a copy of those notes?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure. Why?" And he said, "Oh, because I don't remember what I talked about all semester." He's like, "I don't want to test you guys on anything that I didn't mention. So I figured if it's in your notes, then, it's fair game."
Yeah.
So I said, "Sure." I gave it to him. Aced that test, right? Because it just
Is
off
it
my
written
notes.
off your notes?
So I started selling my notes to other students saying, "Hey, I guarantee you an A."
Wow. Nice. Actually, it's funny. Actually, now you mentioned that in high school, me and a friend tried to set a website up called thelazystudent.com. And it was like, it was basically like Cliff Notes for, high school literature that you had to read. It was kind of the same thing. We would like write these summaries because we never really read those books anyways. We're always about the Cliff Notes. So.
That's great.
Yeah.
So do you think this entrepreneur kind of gene was always in you, or how do you think it cultivated?
I don't know, man. I don't know. I just never really liked authority, and I was always kind of like a bad kid. And I don't know. It just it worked out that way. But a lot of it didn't make sense to me, and it was really terrifying. I remember like when I remember running my business and then finishing college and then coming home and like hooking up with my friends back at home, and everyone's like waking up at 9 and going to work, or waking up at 7 going to work, and I'd wake up at like 10. I had like really loose hours, like there's no structure. And it was just really weird. And I remember thinking like, am I doing this wrong? And I remember like running my numbers, like, am I like making enough? Like something's not right here. It just felt really weird. So, I had the advantage of having some experience by then, but it was still weird because.
How old were you at this time?
It was like maybe 24 or 23.
Okay. And so like this was. Everyone had like, their first corporate job.
Yeah, people were, getting out of college, right? And like coming home and then waking up and, hanging out with my friends, getting Starbucks afterwards, hearing them bitch and moan about the office work and stuff. And like, I would just be in my PJs all day or whatever, or I'd be working till 1 a.m, however it had to be. And my lifestyle was real different. And even though I knew I was making more money than them, I still like for months would go through the numbers over and over again. Like what? Like, it just felt weird.
How much were you making at the time?
I don't remember. It's really hard to say because, I have an inventory based business, right? So, if you made like $100,000 and you bought like, $50,000 worth of inventory and it took 3 years to sell, it's just hard, the numbers. And then you bought another container, another, more inventory. So even to this day, the numbers have always been hard because like, what do you count as real money versus money that's paid, that's in inventory versus inventory that hasn't been paid for yet? The numbers, they start to mix together. So
yeah, I guess that's the hard part. But like, I guess gross revenue and total sales, what were we doing per month?
When I was like 24, maybe, we could do $30,000 or $40,000 a month in revenue. Yeah, around there.
Okay. And it's always hard because then you have, first off, you have overhead, you have like a warehouse to rent, and then you have like shipping costs.
Well, actually, at that time, I was running out of I think I was running it out of my garage at one point too. That's how it started. The warehouse was like later, but it went from the garage to like a storage facility to like 2 storage facilities to a bigger one to like a small 1,000 square foot warehouse, which is really hard to find, by the way, because nobody wants, like no landlord wants 1,000. They want like a tenant that's going to take a 5,000 square foot warehouse. So, finding these kind of really small warehouse spaces, and then I had a 1,000 square footer. Then I got 2 next to each other, and then it kind of went to like a bigger warehouse, and that's kind of how it like scaled up how you would think it would, like from the garage to like something a little bit bigger, something a little bit bigger. Kind of, that's how it grew. Yeah.
But then as it scaled up, didn't you just have to buy more inventory? Like, I think that's kind of the hard thing about most physical product businesses. Like, let's say you're, even if you're selling like skin cream, right?
Right.
Like, if you start doing $100,000 in sales, then you have to have 100,000 units, like in a storage facility somewhere.
Yeah. And so that's kind of why I couldn't really answer because, I've been doing the same business now for almost a decade. And so in that time, a lot has happened. There's real estate that got involved. And so the money kind of gets splashed everywhere. And, then there's money in that, like construction and attorneys and legal, and that ends up taking a big, depending on how big your real estate projects are, I mean, you can start taking more and more money. And so the line becomes very blurry. And my girlfriend always jokes, like, my life is really structureless. Like, I do what needs to get done when it needs to get done, but I don't have a set, like, 9 to 5.
Yeah, that makes sense. I guess this is why I really like online businesses or e-commerce, especially with dropshipping, where we're not buying any inventory up front.
Yep.
And the margins are, I'm sure, smaller. We probably don't have as much of a, I don't know, I guess like a brand, like to build around, so it's easier for other people to come in and compete. But in general, at the end of the month, I can do my accounting on the first of the month and know exactly how much I owe or, what the net profit was.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you hold no inventory and I'm kind of learning the back end of it right now. I mean, when it comes to inventory, you get stale inventory. How do you value that? And as inventory ages, things that aren't selling, it gets, I basically look at things in a really big picture, and that's how I can kind of see things. But I don't look at things like, I brought in, 100,000 units of this, like how many of these sold. I look at, at the end of the year, do we have more money in the bank account than we did previously? And at the end of 10 years, personally, me, do I have more assets than I did 10 years ago? And then judging by the scale of those assets, you can say, okay, I'm moderately successful or I'm not. After 10 years, if all you can afford, if after 10 years of working, you have a condo, then that's one level of success. After 10 years, you have like a real estate empire. You have an idea. I mean, you have a really rough idea of what happened. And that's good enough because really at the end of the day, after, returns and exchanges and these random fees that hit you and random assessments, $1,000 really at the end of the day, depending on the scale of your business can be a rounding error. I could, I can just get hit with like a random lawsuit, and then that can be, $20,000, $30,000 really easily. And so, these things happen and they happen all the time. IRS assessment. I got audited by the city, the city of LA for tax, like state tax. So, I mean, I can get a call from my account saying, oh, okay, now you owe $4,000 to the state for whatever reason, cause they kind of gross your numbers and they believe that you sold X amount percentage in California, you owe California sales tax this amount. So, really, you have to look at things at a much larger scale and say like, at the end of a year, 5 years, is the business bigger? Do I have more assets? Is there more cash in the account? And that's a better idea of how, that something's happening or something's not happening.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. Yeah. I actually remember the first year I was selling things online, I was based out of California, just out of, I was a sole proprietor out of my parents' house, basically.
Right.
Even though I was in Thailand, I didn't have an address. So I just used my parents' address and I had to collect 8.75%.
Yep.
California state tax.
Yep.
Sales tax, and then forward that over. And it was complicated because there was no straightforward way to do it. It was kind of just like, I tried to contact, the BOE, the Board of Equalization, California state tax, whatever. And I was like, hey, what should I do with this money?
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, basically just collect it.
They're like,
and
give it to us.
Give it to us. And I'm like, oh, do you want me to send you the order? And they're like, no, just give us the money. And I'm like, what money? Like what? Like, and they're just like, just give us the money. And I'm like, I don't know how to calculate this.
Right.
So it was so confusing. I think at the end of the year, I just sent them a check for like, a couple $1,000s or whatever.
Right. Uh-huh.
I think I just like looked up what orders were sent to an address in California.
Uh-huh.
And then I think I might have lost out on some because I didn't collect the state tax. And I was like, man, this is so complicated. I don't want to do this. I don't want to hold on the money thinking this is my money and at the end of the year I owe it.
Right.
So I moved the business to Wyoming. So I would only be responsible for collecting state tax to Wyoming residents.
Yeah.
But nobody lives in Wyoming.
Right.
In the 5 years I've sold stuff online, I've never had one customer from Wyoming.
Wow.
Ever. In like
wow.
Over thousands of orders.
Wow. That's crazy. Yeah, I mean that's pretty much what it is, right? I'll sit down with my accountant and I'll say, okay, well, what do we owe in state tax? What do we owe in city tax? What do we owe in federal tax? And so he'll go through everything, and it's confusing, man. What if somebody buys something in California, collects sales tax, then they refund it? I mean, it sounds easy on a small scale, but if you're doing, thousands of orders or hundreds of orders a day or a month, they start to, what if somebody buys something and returns it 3 months later, or, what if they don't, whatever. I mean, there's all these kind of extraneous circumstances that can occur. And so it gets confusing. And I think it sounds simple. And I remember thinking, oh, well, just keep track of everything. But I think once you do it, it becomes a different thing than what you think in theory would occur.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's why if you watch shows like The Profit,
I do. Marcus Lemonis.
I love that show. I highly recommend it. You'll see how screwed up the accounting for most small businesses are. There's a lot of businesses that will do $1 million worth of sales. And the end of the year, they'll have nothing left.
Yep.
They'll have zero net profit.
Absolutely.
And you're like, how did that happen?
It happens all the time.
Yeah. And you're like, how does that happen? You have a 40% gross margin, you have, you know, whatever it is. Like, how do you literally have exactly zero left or even negative? Like, how are you running a negative $200,000 a year business by selling $1 million worth of stuff? And how are you even still open?
Yeah, absolutely. It happens. I mean, talking to my accountant, I mean, he tells me these stories too, cause he sees the books of everybody, you know, and, it happens. People will, gross $1 million in sales, gross $10 million in sales and break even, or, I've heard stories of people, grossing $10 million and making 100,000. It's like, well, how is that even possible to do, but it happens, man. I mean, it happens more often than you would think. And after running businesses, I can see how it easily happens. Like, all day long.
I think especially as small business owners, we run everything through our business. So, you go out to eat, you're like, let's talk about business.
Yeah, but that's not going to impact a $10 million a year business, right? It still happens.
It's weird because I think what happens is like everything kind of goes through, everything's muddled, nobody's keeping track of anything. And then, especially with inventory, people buy too much inventory.
Oh, inventory is the worst.
And then they have to get rid of it somehow. They lose money on that. Like, it just disappears.
It literally disappears. I mean, I'm sitting in a warehouse. I mean, I'm in Chiang Mai, but I have a warehouse in LA, and my warehouse is packed full of inventory. I mean, it's just ridiculously packed full of inventory. And, again, I don't need to know the rough numbers. I know that all that inventory is paid for. I know that I own all of it. So I have a rough idea of what's what in there. But, if you ask me an exact dollar amount, I wouldn't be able to tell you, but
like, so if you were to be honest with yourself, what percentage of that inventory is just dead weight that's sitting there that you never should have bought in the first place?
That's hard to answer too, because let's say you buy 10 units of something, like 10 pens, and it takes a year to sell. Do you consider that dead inventory? Like, what's your run rate? Are you hoping to dump it in a month? Like, what do you consider dead inventory, right? So if for example, I know that my business will last another 2 years, and some people would say if I bought 10 pens, I want them gone in a month. But if I said, look, I've got like 1,000 SKUs. If I buy 10 pens and I get it back in 2 years with profit, I'm okay with that, right? So it becomes, it becomes tough.
I walk into these literal stationery stores sometimes.
Yeah.
Especially here in Thailand, but even in the US too. Yeah. Like, let's say like a 99 cents, like a Chinese dollar shop kind of thing. Not the big American 99-cent stores, but like, you guys know what I'm talking about. You go walk to a shop, it's owned by some Chinese family, and they have a bunch of stuff. They have everything under the roof imaginable. Kitchen stuff, stationary stuff. And you walk in and you look around and you're like, how do they keep track of this, number one?
Yeah. They don't. That's the honest answer.
And then how do they know what to order? How do they know what to reorder? How long has this stuff been sitting on the shelf?
Yeah.
And a lot of it, I guarantee, has been sitting there forever.
Right.
They'll have floppy disks still sitting there. Or like, CDR, rewritable, CD-ROMs. And you're like, this stuff has literally been sitting here for 7 years. It's never going to sell.
Yeah.
Is it really they just buy stuff that's cheap and they think maybe it'll sell? And then if it doesn't, they're just like, oh, well, just leave it there until it does. And as long as at the end of the month we have more money than,
right.
It could not. Yeah.
It could be. Or they could say something like, I'll buy, 100 boxes of CDRs. And if I sold 10 of them, essentially, like, my cost is broke even. And after that, like, it's just, it's all quote unquote profit. So, if they sold 10 and they're like, all right, cool. Like, our cost is like sorted out. And so now we have 90 and whatever we sell is what we sell. I mean, it is kind of not the best inventory management, but like I said, after running an inventory business, it's not like these people aren't stupid. Like, this sort of issue happens to everyone that runs inventory.
To me, it's insane. And it's something I never, like, it's like my nightmare.
It's a headache.
It's like a hoarder's house.
Yeah.
It's like, I do not want that in my life. I think it would just add stress in my life every day if I had to see that, if I had to try to figure it out.
Absolutely.
And I think that's why I would never want to have a physical business. But at the same time, I think there's a lot of like benefits of it. All right. So can we briefly talk about maybe some of the pros of having a physical, business like e-commerce, for example?
Yeah. I mean, I don't drop ship.
Well, not e-commerce. Sorry. Like a physical, I guess you kind of do e-commerce anyways, but
yeah, the actual holding physical inventory.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. Like, not drop shipping. Yeah. I mean, generally speaking, I mean, I can't say this absolutely, but in my case, the profits were better, holding inventory and, going early on, the profits were pretty decent. And so holding inventory made sense. Now it actually makes less sense than it did because of so much competition. But, I have this sort of competitive advantage in that I've been doing it for a long time. And so we kind of already have this infrastructure built out. So it kind of is not as big of a leap for us, but it is a headache. And, it does, inventory does get old, it gets stale, it messes up with your accounting. I mean, that is just the reality of running a business. But if you want to like run a business, a lot of businesses run off inventory, whether it's food or retail. I mean, almost any retail. I mean, you can even argue that digital downloads are inventory in their own way, right? They don't cost money. They don't really depreciate, but they are also inventory. And so, unless you're, doing something else, that is inventory. And that is kind of an issue that you will have to deal with if you run any sort of inventory based business.
So I think actually one of the biggest benefits of having to buy inventory first is it forces people to have a different mindset when they start a business. I know that for a fact that let's say someone, wanted to sell, kitchen tables. If you had to actually buy $30,000 worth of kitchen tables, I guarantee you would do whatever it takes. You will work as many hours as needed to sell those $30,000 worth of kitchen tables. You would figure it out.
Yeah.
You would, anytime something came up, and everything comes up, right? So let's say we're gonna start a business. We have Dan the dropshipper versus, Ivan the inventory guy, right? So they're both gonna actually run into really similar issues. They're like, okay, let's start a business. And then they find out, oh, I need to have a seller's permit.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So, Dan goes online and is like, oh man, this is a pain in the butt. I have forms to fill out. I gotta register with, my state. It's like, oh, I can't do this. He gives up. The inventory guy's like, oh crap, I just spent 30 grand. Yep. Let me figure this out.
Right. Yeah. That's definitely true. Yeah. You kind of paint yourself into a corner, right? But sometimes that can be like the best thing for you, right? Like you come out swinging and realizing that you can actually get shit done,
Yeah. And then you'll figure that out. I'm like, okay, well, what next? Like, oh, I gotta get a phone number, or I gotta get, I gotta have something to actually collect sales. I need a payment processor. I need, a tax ID number. Yeah. I need all these things that come up, I think are very similar for both businesses.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the only real difference is one is done, I guess with the drop shipping, you're not handling the physical shipping yourself, but you might still be handling the shipping. You might still be the one getting the FedEx, sticker, sent to your dealer, and they just slap it on a box.
Right.
You might still have to get a price quote.
Yep.
You're just not the physical one to do it, to touch the inventory.
Right. Which is, I would argue that's a great position to be in. That's yes, after handling inventory and unloading containers and stacking inventory and dealing with dusty inventory. Yes. I can say that dropshipping definitely has its advantages.
So let's talk about some of the disadvantages, right? So first we talked about lower margins. I know for dropshipping in general, our margins might be, let's say 30 to 32, maybe 35% max.
Yeah.
And that's before advertising costs. That's before giving free shipping or anything.
Oof, it's slim. Yeah.
So it ends up being pretty slim.
Yeah.
With I guess wholesale inventory, when you buy and hold your inventory, I would imagine the lowest profit margin that you would even accept is 50%, and it could be up to 200, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But again, it depends, right? I've been in that stage where profit margins were really high, and then because of competition have gone down. So, even one product, you can experience both ends of that spectrum. Yeah. It's pretty terrifying when your profit margins get thinner and thinner. And, for example, I've got a warehouse in Los Angeles, and a warehouse in Los Angeles is going to be more per square foot than a warehouse in Wyoming or a warehouse in Texas or pretty much a warehouse anywhere else. So, you do have these kind of competitors that are coming up that, that are out for blood. They'll set up, I know people are setting up warehouses in Kentucky because that's where the UPS, global shipping hub, and so things are more convenient. And so yes, that is something you have to deal with, and it's not easy, man. The life of an entrepreneur, it's kind of a feast or famine thing. So when you're feasting, save money and invest well and don't spend foolishly, because famine will come. And it's happened to me multiple times. Like, I've gone out of business several times and always recovered, but I don't know what's going to happen in the next 5 or 10 years. And so, just be diligent with what you got, because, it could dry up, and every day companies go out of business. Companies that do well go out of business,
I definitely agree. That's really good advice. And probably the best thing I ever did was I continued being somewhat frugal even when I was making a lot of money.
Yep.
I was living in Chiang Mai and my business was taking off. It was like the feast year.
Yeah.
Year of feasting, right? I was hitting like 20 grand profit per month. And I was like, man, I can afford anything.
Yeah, especially in Chiang Mai. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was tempted just to be stupid with the money. Mm-hmm. I had friends who they would, they do like these PPC campaigns where like, they would not make anything for months at a time, and then they would hit a campaign and just milk it and be like, oh, I made 50 grand this month or something insane. Mm-hmm. So they checked in to the Cantary Hills Hotel, which is a 5-star hotel. They started spending like $2,000 or $3,000 a month just renting out a hotel room. They rented out like basically a 2-bedroom suite there. They had daily house cleaning. They had like
daily house cleaning.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
And I remember going over and they had a huge TV, like a 70-inch TV. And I was like, where did you get this? They're like, oh, we just bought it at the electronics store, or whatever it was, the Power Buy. And I was like, what, but aren't you guys just here for a month? They're like, yeah, but I was like, what are you going to do with it? They're like, oh, we're just going to leave it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this kind of dumb spending is what gets people in trouble.
Yeah.
And I was so lucky that I upgraded my life really slowly. I think I took my budget from, living under $1,000 a month to saying, all right, let's go crazy. Let's, bump it up to $1,500 a month.
Yeah.
But
that ain't luck. That is discipline. There's a difference, man. I mean, like, it's not lucky that you were diligent with your money, right? Like, so yeah, I totally agree. Being diligent with your money is probably the most important skill an entrepreneur can have, because if you want to live that wild ass life where it's like feast and famine, which you will if you want to go into business for yourself, then when it's feast time, then you just, you go easy, you take what you need and you save it. And if you want to YOLO out, then wait 5 years and see where you're standing first, or wait 10 years. And yes, you need that discipline. Otherwise, it ain't for you, cause you can be broke.
So you said you invested some of the money when it was going really well. What did you end up buying?
Primarily stock market stuff, and then diversifying into real estate. And so, that's pretty much it. I mean, it's quote unquote, it's passive. I mean, first thing I do every morning is roll over and check the stock market. So, whatever that counts for, is the work I put in. And I'm glued to CNBC, and it's weird because in Chiang Mai I don't have it here, but every morning I'm up, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, and I'm on CNBC. Even here when I was jet lagged, I'd stay awake till the stock market is open just so I can see where everything opens. Yeah.
Are you investing in individual stocks or?
Yeah, absolutely. Individual and also mutual funds and all that stuff. I have, a managed account too with Fidelity. They do something called managed account where you can, buy into it, and a fund manager will essentially look after it, which, by the way, ended up not working out. I think amortized over 5 years, I got 8%, and the time was between, I want to say 2013 to now, which is one of the greatest bull runs in history. And I took a look at the S&P 500 and the Dow, and I think it was roughly about 15% compounded every year, and I was getting 8%. So I actually ended up pulling my money out about 6 months ago out of that fund. I called them and I said, what the hell? Why are you performing at 8% when the S&P, the Dow is doing 15? And they said, well, the reason why is because we were buying bonds and we were protecting the downside. After I heard that, I kind of understood. Okay. Cause you're just looking at the S&P, which is all stock, right? And so they're you basically not playing it safely is what they were kind of saying. So I said, okay, it was a mistake to do. It was a bad idea in retrospect, but going forward, you had no idea that this was going to be the greatest bull run in history, obviously. So looking back, I got 8% a year, which was not a good return. I mean, it was okay, but it wasn't that great a return.
And I'm sure the fees were much higher than if you had invested in a S&P 500 index fund.
Well, yeah, that was actually 8% after the fees. The fees are about one point, give or take. And so, yes, but that 1 point, it does add up over a lifetime. I think my lesson for that, and I don't know, I mean, looking backwards, it would have been better putting it into just the Dow 30 or S&P. But then again, you could make the argument. Let's say I take all that money and I put it back into the S&P 500. We could go into some sort of recession or correction in a year or two, and I would have just lost all that money. And that had I left it in that initial fund, those bonds would have protected me or whatever. It would have been that more stabilized portfolio would have, handled adversity better. So really, it is hard to say.
So I'm glad that we brought this up because the kind of the next stage of being an entrepreneur is once you start having money, what do you do with it? And it's a whole new skill set to learn.
Yeah.
This investing game.
Yeah. I mean, like if you don't know what you're doing, you can get like a Vanguard fund or a Fidelity Freedom Fund. And I mean, that's a whole different topic, but Fidelity has something called a Freedom Fund, which is they call it a target dated fund. And the basic timeline for investing is go in heavy and risky when you're young and you can afford to lose and you have time to make up losses. Go in heavy when you're young. Go easy when you're old. So, for example, a really volatile stock, which I love, is like Tesla. So if you're in your 20s, you can invest in Tesla. There is a chance Tesla will go to zero. I mean, I don't think it will, but it's possible because it's a young company. So you put, money into Tesla, and in 10 years, maybe you'll be rewarded with high risk, with high return, or you'll go to zero. But you have more time. You have another 10, 20, 30 years before you retire to make that money up. And when you're in your 50s and 60s, go for a company that will like never disappear, like Google or, Amazon or something, Walmart, something that, Coca-Cola, something that is, won't move as quickly, won't increase in value or percentages as quickly, but the downside is less risky. So those target dated funds, that's what they do. They say, how old are you? You say, okay, I'm 20 years old. Okay. So you put money, like you put $1,000 into that fund. And if you leave that $1,000 in there until you're 60, they will constantly adjust. So when you're in your 20s, like, oh, you're 20. Okay. We're going to buy these hyper aggressive stocks. And then at 25, like they'll taper it. And then 30, they'll taper it. And by the time you're at, 50 or 60, you own like AARP. Well, that was a joke. There's no AARP, but you own like Walmart stock or whatever stock, GE, oil company stocks that, quote unquote won't go anywhere or go somewhere very slowly.
Yeah. Like Coca-Cola is probably the best example of that.
Yeah. You go from, capital appreciation to capital preservation. That's basically the timeline. Yeah.
So how old are you now?
I'm 36.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when did you first start investing?
I started when I was around 16. Again, I had, my uncle was like a self-made entrepreneur and, very successful. And so he guided me and he was always, when I was 16 or 17, I started making some money. I wanted to go buy like a Benz, I wanted to kind of do the same thing that, I wanted some 20s. I wanted a sound system. And my uncle was like, open like a SEP IRA or like open like an IRA. And no 16 or 17-year-old kid wants to hear that, but I ended up doing it because he like sat me down and did it. And it was, like one of the better decisions in my life for sure. Yeah.
So an IRA is what?
It's basically like, how do I say this? It's like, it depends. For example, I have something called a SEP IRA, which is like a self-employment IRA. And it's a fund where it's a tax shelter where you can put money away and, not pay taxes on it until later.
Yeah. So basically it's an individual retirement account. And basically I think you put money in now and then it just grows tax free until you're ready to retire.
Right. Okay. So I guess the numbers will help it out. So let's say you made $10,000 and let's say you put $4,000 into an IRA. Okay. Then you can report your taxable income as $6,000. Okay. So what that means is that you pay tax on $6,000, but you really made 10. So it's a tax shelter in that aspect. But when you pull the money out is when you pay the tax. So you put that $4,000 away into investing and hopefully in 30 years, that $4,000 is, I don't know, 10 grand or 15 or 20 grand. And then you pay your taxes on the back end of that. So that's kind of how that works. So there's a lot of these sort of vehicles. Real estate's another vehicle. There's a lot of these vehicles that you can use to reduce your tax liability. And so that's kind of what the accountant is for. You've got, 401ks, IRAs, you got all sorts of, the educational funds that you can set up that will reduce your tax liability. So, I mean, that's something you need to talk to a professional about, but there are a lot of ways. Also capital, depreciating with real estate and, tax write-offs, all this other stuff.
Very cool. If you guys are, interested, take a listen to our other podcasts, my other podcast. It's Invest Like a Boss. We talk about this every week. And I really think it's the next kind of stage for entrepreneurs to figure out how to make passive income through your money because I really think it's the best way to make money is have your money make you money instead of you working for it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's like the most powerful way. If you, for example, if the average, S&P over the last 10 years was 15%, let's just say, and you had $1 million, let's just say $1 million in the S&P 500, that means every year you would make $150,000 without lifting a finger and never touch that original $1 million. And that's how powerful it is. And you scale the numbers down. Let's say you put 100 grand into the S&P 500. That'd be $15,000 free. You wouldn't take $15,000 free a year for doing absolutely nothing without ever touching your initial principal, right? Scale that down to 10,000, whatever it is. I mean, it becomes really, really powerful. And as the numbers scale up, it becomes even more powerful. And this is how kind of rich people can never spend the amount of money that they're making because if you've got $10 million or $20 or $100 million, you can see how that 15% gets to a point where you just can't even spend it fast enough that it's accruing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And even if it's a slow year and it's 5%, it's still a lot.
Yeah.
Hey guys, real quick, I want to tell you more about that super cool luggage I mentioned in the beginning of the episode. It's Hypath 2-in-1 luggage. It is designed to be exactly the maximum size for carry-on luggage, which means you can travel the world carrying just these backpacks. And what's really cool is instead of having one giant bag that becomes a little bit useless once you get to your destination, it actually splits into two. It's perfect for digital nomads and people who want to travel like a boss. You get a normal backpack with a laptop sleeve, which is perfect for day trips and working, and a larger piece of luggage that you can just leave at home or in your hotel or your Airbnb when you are in your destination. So between the two bags, you get the maximum amount of luggage allowed by most airlines, and you don't have to check in bags. So check them out. Go to Amazon, type in Hypath, which is HYPATH, and you can use the coupon code JohnnyFD to get 10% off. Once again, go to Amazon.com, type in Hypath, HYPATH, and use the coupon code JohnnyFD to get 10% off. Check them out. So I think a lot of people listening to this podcast specifically are thinking, okay, well, how do I get to that point where I have enough money to start investing?
Right.
For you, would you wait until you had a bunch of profit at the end of the year and then buy investments, or would you just take some out every month and just put it in and say, okay, every month I'm just going to put something aside? Yeah.
So what John is referring to is called dollar cost averaging. And that's basically, there's two ways to invest. You could say let's say a stock oscillates between $10 and $100, and you have no idea if it's going to be $100 tomorrow or $10 today. So how do you invest? When do you know when to buy? Obviously you want to buy when it's $10, but you have no idea what's going to happen. So dollar cost averaging is saying, look, I'll take, $100 of my money, and every month I'll spend $10 and buy into the stock. This way you ride the ups and you ride the downs. So for me, if capital is not accruing interest or not growing, then it's wasted capital. So I would always like to deploy capital into some sort of investment that will, because you got to figure too, inflation is 3%. And so every year your money, the value of your money is being reduced by 3%. So it's really important to know that $100 today won't buy the same thing as $100 in 5 years or 10 years or even 2 years. And so don't forget that the money that you have is always losing value. And that's why, you hear like our grandparents talking about how they could get a haircut for $1 or $2, and now a haircut's, 10 to 15 bucks.
Well, even now, like a bowl of noodles, I remember it used to be $4.99, and now when I go back to San Francisco, it's $15.
Yeah.
And that's inflation in a big part.
Yeah.
And you guys might live somewhere where it's like, oh, it didn't go up that much. But just think about look at how much McDonald's was.
Yeah.
When you were just a few years ago.
29-cent cheeseburger, 29 and 39-cent cheesburgers and hamburgers.
Gone. That's never happening again. The dollar menu is now the $5 menu.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember when a Honda Civic was like, 15 grand or, 12 grand. And now, it's like 20 all day,
So, but I guess my question really was more as a business owner, how would you know if you should just take the profit with the money you had in the bank and just keep buying more inventory, keep growing the business, or if you should just take some of that and put it into a savings account or retirement account for the future?
Right. So I guess the way I would look at it is whatever has a higher rate of return. So if you think, let's say you have $100 and you think that you can get 5% or 10% return on your business and you can get 8% in the stock market, then wouldn't you rather put that in the 10% return on your business, right? So I mean, you're not going to be always right. Sometimes you're going to fall on your face. I mean, that happens, but that's just part of it, you know? So as long as it's doing something, at least it's moving. But if it's sitting in your bank account, then it's losing value.
Okay. So you said you bought stocks and then you also bought real estate, right? How did that happen?
I just wanted to diversify, honestly. I just wanted to diversify and I wanted to get into something else. So I bought real estate and I mean, that's a whole, I mean, I could go on forever about like, I mean, the headaches of real estate in LA. I mean, that's a whole different discussion, but, yes, I did diversify and they always say you want a diversified portfolio. So you want, you know, stocks, you want bonds, you want real estate, you want precious metals, all this stuff. And so that's kind of what I was doing. I didn't intend to diversify because that was just what I was told to do. I don't know, it just kind of worked out that way. I saw an opportunity, I took it. And, so, you know, it's a totally different investment. It's a totally different vehicle. And it was very educational and for me, very stressful. And I think it's just specific to real estate in Los Angeles.
Okay. So you would not recommend people buy like rental properties in LA?
No.
Or probably even in California as a whole, right?
Yeah. In California, if you see rent control, I would run. I mean, I would say after owning real estate, for over 5 years now that buying real estate in Los Angeles has greatly handicapped my returns. And had it been in a business friendly environment like Texas, for example, I would have made more money. And it really taught me how important policy is, how important government policy is, how important politics are, and how important governance is. And the way, you know, government, you know, I hate government. Like, I don't like government. I don't like big government. I don't like the way they work. I think they're really inefficient. They're really poor with capital. They don't give a damn. You know, when's the last time you went to the DMV and had a good experience? When's the last time you went to, the post office and had a good experience? I mean, when things are privatized, for example, post office versus UPS, I mean, where would you rather go? Right. And so, and you know, county hospital versus like Kaiser Permanente or something like that. Where would you rather go? Right. And so I'm a big kind of privatized guy. Like I like, things to be privatized. And so, same thing with in LA, for example, the freeways, right? Like I think the freeways are privatized. You wouldn't be experiencing anywhere near the amount of gridlock that you experience because the freeways are controlled by the government, essentially, you know, the city. So.
Yeah, it's really interesting because I really do think that there's no, you know, such thing as like a perfect system, but in general, out of all the imperfect systems out there, having like actual pure capitalism is probably going to be the best thing that we have right now.
Yeah.
I still think that we should have government for some things like, you know, like let's say police force, firefighting, and to kind of, you know, step in when like actually necessary. So like, for example, let's say everything was privatized. I would still want the government saying, all right, guys, you still can't just dump, you know, pollutants in the ocean. Like,
right.
You know, this is something we have to step in at.
Yeah.
But in general, I think it'd be better if it's just much smaller.
Yeah. I agree. It's not so extreme where just business runs everything because the natural nature of business is monopoly. And like, you can see that with Amazon right now, eventually taking over everything. So there definitely needs to be like a check on it. But I think California is primarily run by government. And so that is where it really falls, in my opinion, falls flat. If you look at, you know, LA, like look at the roads in LA, look at the hospital in LA versus like a city like Irvine, which is kind of quasi-private in its own way, right? I mean, Irvine, the streets are beautiful. The healthcare is good. The hospitals are clean. Go to LA County and it's just like filthy in there. And, you know, so the streets are all messed up. And so there definitely is something to be said about private business. I obviously don't think that, you know, private business should own the world, but I would err on a kind of capitalist world then versus, you know.
That definitely makes sense. So why did you come out here to Chiang Mai? Like what struck the chord to make you decide to uproot? Cause you sold everything, right? Like you made a big move.
Yeah. Well, we sold all our belongings more or less. You know, I had an apartment out there. And so, you know, we just kind of sold like our, you know, stuff, like our, you know, dishes. Well, we trashed a lot of stuff too, but we got rid of all our stuff and made a move to Chiang Mai. We were just kind of fed up with, you know, me personally, I just got tired of it, LA, you know, and I know that in a year, that McDonald's on the corner will still be there. And that Starbucks at that corner will still be there. And I will have kind of not really missed that much. Me personally, ended up kind of seeing that we were living a life of just kind of patterns. Like I'd always go to the same places over and over again. And, you know, Chiang Mai is exotic. It's got, all the conveniences of Western life. And, it's a change of pace, and they got, really great beaches, in southern Thailand. And it was just, it was really amazing cost of living. And the biggest thing was value for your dollar here is humongous. And, you can hear about it, but the minute you actually do it, it just becomes so much more real.
So I know you said you had found my stuff a while back, but like, what did you even start searching for? Like, did you already in your mind say, I want to move to Thailand, or what were you searching?
I don't know. One of my friends, Kevin Nguyen actually was talking about you a long time ago back in the day. And so I ended up, watching you, and, he's been watching you for a while. And, so, we talked about it, and, I probably watched a video or two or three, and then it started coming up on our feed, and then I started seeing all these other, YouTubers coming on, and I think that kind of opened my eyes to that sort of life, and that, there is a world outside of America. And we've done a lot of, and initially when I first discovered this, I tried to kind of half-ass it by traveling a lot. And so we would, leave to places for like a month at a time. And it just wasn't good enough, and we finally just made the move. And I don't miss LA at all. I mean, aside from my friends and family, I don't miss the traffic. I don't miss Starbucks. I kind of miss Mexican food, and that's more or less about it. In Thailand here, I mean, I can get good, Asian food and, good, just really authentic cooked food here, and everything's really fresh. The fruits don't even compare, in LA specifically. I mean, I'm speaking of LA a lot because that's where I'm from. I don't want to say, Arizona because I'm not from there, but I would imagine it, the fruits here in Chiang Mai are probably better than in Arizona too.
Well, what's crazy, I think we actually have, some of the best fruit in California compared to the rest of the US. Mm-hmm. And because we have, for example, in LA, we have like Mexican fruit carts.
Oh yeah, I love those.
They're really good. They have these Mexican guys with these like carts of fruit that chop it up in front of you.
Oh yeah.
But it's pretty expensive.
Yeah.
Like, how much is a bag of pineapple, like, if from one of these places?
Yeah, it's funny because I actually go to those a lot, and I would say like it's like $4. I want to say $4 for like.
Not that bad.
Well, I mean, it's not that bad. It's not that good.
But here, for that same bag,
right,
that I had brought to board game night yesterday, we were playing Risk. It was 20 baht.
It's like under $1,
which is like,
it's like 80 cents.
And it was better here.
Yo, yeah. The fruit is undeniably better here. And, and when I was in LA, I lived across the street from a Whole Foods, or a block away from a Whole Foods, and it doesn't matter. I mean, and, I think Whole Foods is ridiculous anyways. I was there, and, it was like 14. I saw a jar of orange juice that was cold pressed for $14. Orange juice was $14 for a jar, and it was like a liter. It was like not a lot, and it was just mind blowing. So over here, I mean, organic fruit is just called fruit over here, and so, I'm looking right now on the table, and Johnny has bananas, and they're
that was 20 baht for the whole batch.
But, they don't all look the same. They have spots on them. I mean, that is how nature,
tasty.
But that's how nature makes them. When I go to Whole Foods and I look at these bananas that looks like they've been like plastic surgery'd, like they just all look exactly the same. They're all perfectly yellow. That ain't how nature cooks them up.
And here's the thing is those, even though they look nice, they're kind of like I mean, they just don't taste good.
No flavor.
Yeah, there's no substance, right? It's like, if everyone in the world got plastic surgery, put a bunch of makeup on, but didn't, lost their flavor, lost their culture, lost their sweetness. Mm-hmm. That's kind of what it is. And then charge a lot for it because it's, Whole Foods, like perfect manicured fruit.
Yeah. It's like Ryan Seacrest was like sitting at like a fruit stand. Yeah. And everything was just like perfect and tailored and manicured and like, I don't know. That's just not, I know that that's not how nature cooks them up. And so
with cost of living, like what were you spending back home on average per month?
That's pretty tough for me to answer because, cause I was getting like, I have the attorney fees. I mean, what are you talking, like just like at home?
Like cost of living, like when you go out to eat, like what's the average cost of meal? Like what are you spending for transport? All that, that stuff.
Well, I don't know if I'm like because we essentially eat out at least once a day. So we probably spend a lot of money eating out. I don't know.
Like average meal, like lunch, dinner.
I'd go to Chipotle, right? And I'd get like a burrito and like a chips and guac and a drink, right? So like $12, $13, that sort of thing, even like a chicken salad with like a drink might be like $12-13. So I'd say around that ballpark.
Okay.
Is what
And
we
then for
spend.
dinner, like how much does it cost to go out?
So yeah, dinner gets like pretty ugly. Like, we'd probably have sushi like, at least, twice a month, I would say. And so, sushi would, be like $40 a person, $30-40 a person. So dinner, I don't know, you could probably average it out to like, I don't know, $20 a person if I had to guess. I don't know.
And then out here, what have you been spending?
Oh, geez. The baby Jesus. So like yesterday we had lunch. Me and my girlfriend, we got like, a piece of fried chicken. Like I got a big piece of like a drumstick and a thigh, and then 3 entrees and rice and free water. And she got, like a drumstick and 2 entrees and rice. It was like a pretty big meal, and it was like $3.25 or something, like some ridiculous. Yeah. And even today, this morning, there's a restaurant right by where we're staying, and it's not the cheapest place in the world, but me and her can eat for, we ate this morning there. We probably spent about $5.50 for both of us. And we get drinks too. We eat how we want to eat. So we get like, entrees each, and then we get like a vegetable, and then we get like 2 drinks each, or 1 drink each, and so we don't skimp, we don't.
So the first time that we hung out, no, it's not the first time. I think the second time we hung out, we went to dinner with this couple that I actually met at the immigration office in LA while getting our visas. And we went out to this like really good roast chicken place, and I over ordered by accident. I think like I just ordered, I didn't count how many dishes. I just literally ordered like 1 or 2 of each of every good item. I want to, how many plates did we have in front of us?
A lot. It was a lot. I mean, the Thai portions are smaller, but, I want to say at least.
I want to say we had 4 meat dishes, 4 types of salad. We had
drinks all around.
Drinks. We had ice cream for dessert.
Ice cream for dessert.
We had like sticky rice for everyone. I got a second portion of it. We had a fried papaya salad as well.
With, I think 1 or 2. 1.
That one we had 1, but we had like 3 types of papaya salad as well. We had so many plates. I want to guess we had like between 8 and 11 dishes come.
Yeah.
For 4 people.
Yeah.
Which is ridiculous. We don't need that much food.
Yeah.
And so this is like the most I've spent at this restaurant ever. But even then, the total bill was like $7 a person.
Yep.
And this is going insane.
Yeah, we were yellowing it.
And like, what would that have been in LA?
Oh man. Jeez.
I feel like if I said, if we were in LA and I was like, okay, it's like $40 each, we'd be like, okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like you wouldn't be like, no, it can't be.
Yeah.
You look at the bill, you'd be like, oh, I guess, right? Yeah. Tax and tip.
Yeah, tip is going to be the killer. 15% tip on like a $100 bill or $200 bill. That adds up. Yeah.
And it's like, I remember actually, I was out with some friends, this big group of us, but the bill ended up being $700. And then I was trying to do the math on the tip. And I think I was like, okay, well, like what's 15% of $700? And I was like, no, that can't be right, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I was like, 105, no,
yeah.
There's no way it's $100 extra for tip. But it was.
Yeah.
And that's and you have to leave it. You know? That's just the way it is.
Yeah. I mean, anyone that's been to Vegas knows the pain, right? Anyone that's got like a table at a club or gone to a club and got a few drinks, especially if you've like celebrated out there and got a table for like a wedding or a birthday or something. I mean, it hurts. I mean, that tip really hurts.
It's crazy because it's like you have the bill for $700 and then you look under it and it says $80 for tax. And you're like, oh, fuck. That's a lot.
Yeah. I mean, over in Thailand, you can live here really comfortably for a month. Yeah. I mean, so is it worth it? I mean, I've done this too. Me and my homies back in the day, we used to, go clubbing and, we'd get tables. I mean, it'd be easy for us to get tables because there's like, 15 of us. And so everyone pitched in like $100. We can, get a $1,500 or $2,000 table. But if you just think about like, if you spend $1,000 and a night, I mean, or $2,000 in one night, and that can buy you 2 months of like really comfortable living in Thailand. I mean, it's just not worth it. Looking back, and I kind of, I had to do it because I was young, but it wasn't the smartest move in the world,
That's an interesting point I bring up. Well, first is that we all think we have to do it because that's just what everyone else is doing.
Yep.
If we go out with friends and we don't do it, or we, say, no, like, let's not do that. Let's not, spend this.
Yeah.
You're kind of like outcast.
Yeah, because it's whack.
Yeah.
Who wants to hang with some guy that goes, oh, I don't want to do that. You can't do that. That's kind of whack.
So I used to do that. I used to go out and, to some of you listening, you might think we're idiots, but we were, but this was kind of like the life in LA. It's normal on a weekend to chip in $100 each.
Oh yeah. All day, man. More, but yeah, super easy.
It's just a normal thing to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's stupid.
Yeah, it's stupid.
Like you don't get anything out of it.
No.
Like you have a hangover the next day, but you're like, well, this is it. This is the only thing there is to do. We worked hard all week.
Right. You want to blow some steam off with your friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we want to go out. Right. We got to, do something.
Right.
And that's it. That's what you do.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when I think about how much money I've blown doing stupid stuff like that, I mean, if that was invested over the course of 10 years with compounding, that could have been a lot of money, man. And in a way, I understand doing that because you got to have a social life too, man. You got to kick with your homies and stuff. And so you got to do some of that. That's just part of the expense. But, in my older age, I wish I did less of it.
You know what? And we got off lucky because I think I was lucky because I was cheap and I left early. I think you're lucky because you had a business, and you're working hard making money.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have friends who are in credit card debt still today from just, being stupid.
Yeah.
In their 20s and 30s.
Yeah.
And it's hard to catch up.
Yeah, it's terrifying, man. It's terrifying that you can have $100 worth of debt and get 20% interest, and at the end of the year you owe $120. It's just freaking nuts, and that happens all the time, even with student debts. The first thing is like get out of debt. If you're in debt, man, that's if you've got like a bad interest rate, you got to get out of that first. That's rule number one, I think.
Yeah, if anyone is in credit card debt right now, I'd recommend a book by Dave Ramsey. I forgot what he calls it, something debt makeover or something. But I had a friend, Anastasia. She's been on the podcast. I don't remember which episode, but basically she had I want to say 40 grand or something in debt, and she just paid it off following that method, and she started an online business. Now I think she's living, I forgot where she's living, but the last time we hung out was on the Canary Islands, and
wow.
She's living a great life now.
Yeah. Well, with David, I know David Ramsey, he's I don't know him that well, but from what I hear, I think he's allergic to debt. He hates debt. Now, there is strategic use of debt. What I'm talking about is if you're just going to a bar or eating out or kind of using that money in a way that doesn't have any sort of velocity, then yeah, I think. But, real estate debt, all this stuff, that's a little different, and that's a whole different conversation. But there is, after doing real estate, there is amazing power, because initially I was really allergic to debt and I hated it too. And it took me a long time to realize that there is this sort of strategic use of debt, and there is a good way to do that, but that is not going out to a bar and buying beers. That's a different type of debt. This is totally, totally different. So don't confuse the two. Going to Macy's and buying a bunch of jeans, that's not the type of debt I'm talking about. That is bad debt, not good debt.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think leveraging, money to invest is one thing. I don't necessarily like going that route just because I'm a bit more conservative. But I also see if I was going to buy real estate as investment property, I probably wouldn't want, to put $1 million in cash. I don't have $1 million in cash to put it down.
Right.
But if I can put 20% of that, put 200 grand in, leverage it, have a $1 million property, cash flow me money.
Yep.
That is an investment.
Absolutely.
Going out and, going to Vegas.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we like going to Vegas. It's fun.
Right.
The Nomads Summit, it was just in Vegas because it's fun.
Right.
But I don't recommend to anybody to put a trip or a weekend on a credit card, not knowing how to pay it off.
Yeah.
And especially not put your life on a credit card. I just found the episode, it was 181. and is actually going from $70,000 in debt to making 10 grand a month. So she basically, started an online business. She followed Dave Ramsey. She cut out 70 grand in debt.
Wow.
And then when we were hanging out, she was making 10 grand a month from, working online while, living debt free and living cheaper. So that's the ultimate switch.
Yeah, absolutely. When we say debt free, it means no BS debt. If you're carrying like a mortgage that's cash flowing or something, that's a totally different. I mean, really, it's kind of a disservice. In the English language, there should be a different word for that sort of debt, because that is not the same debt. And so, looking back, for me, for example, looking back, when I started investing in real estate, had I gone into deeper debt and leveraged more, it would have been more beneficial today. And that's kind of why I kind of learned that debt is not necessarily a bad thing. But again, there is a big difference between the two.
Yeah. Or you could also be, fucked, basically. I have a really smart friend. Yeah. He invested, in a bunch of rental properties. And when the kind of debt crisis came in, 2008, 2009, mm-hmm. he had done everything right. He actually had 20% down on everything. So he didn't over leverage himself.
Okay.
But he just
got caught up
because he had too much leverage.
Right.
And he had over $1 million worth of properties, and he lost all of them because things changed. They weren't worth as much anymore. Interest rates changed. People, just didn't have the money, they weren't lending anymore. They weren't renewing, leases, and it just, you get screwed as well.
Yeah. So. Yeah, absolutely. That can absolutely happen. And, that might happen again. I mean, everything I read right now, there's a credit bubble going on. I mean, there's an everything bubble, right? The Fed and QE and all this stuff. And so asset inflation is, craziness right now. I look at the stock market and, everything is at all-time highs, including real estate. LA housing bubble, the current price for a home is more expensive than the peak in 2007. And real estate is at all-time high. It smells a little fishy to me because a healthy stock market or a healthy real estate market is that people are making money, and with real money, they're bidding up the prices. But that's not really happening. It's more funny money. And that's kind of what happened in '07. And so, really the economy right now is quote unquote on life support with quantitative easing. And that's like a whole different topic. But, there is kind of funny money in everything right now. And so I don't believe that this is a healthy market. A healthy market is where, are you doing better than you were 10 years ago? Am I? If everyone is doing really, really great and we're bidding up the prices for everything, that's a healthy market. But I don't believe that's the case. I think that people aren't doing that great since 2007 or 8. They might be doing slightly better, but it's not like everyone's making a lot of money. So this sort of asset inflation that's happening right now it smells like funny money to me. And so that could happen again. Yeah, this whole crash could happen again.
I actually feel something really similar. A lot of it kind of is just intuition almost.
Yeah, me too.
The last time I was just a month ago, I was back in the US, and the way that prices were for things, I had noticed that people got so used to having high prices and prices going up so often that menus, even on the side of a food truck, stopped having prices.
Yeah.
And because they had to change it so often, they just didn't have prices, and people would order things not asking what the price was. And I thought, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, it's bubble behavior.
That's exactly what it is. And I'm in front of the courthouse, in Vegas, not because, I was in court or anything, but I just happened to be walking by there and there's a food truck. And I'm ordering a breakfast burrito. I'm like, oh, how much is the breakfast burrito? And she's like, oh, nobody's asked her in a while. So she had to tell me. And I'm like, I was like, how do you have a food truck in front of a courthouse? And these are low budget people. You have people getting on probation. You have people they're not rich people, right? And the fact that none of them even bother asking for the price, they just order. And then they're just like, all right, well, I'll take it up the ass, whatever it is.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm like, that is not normal.
Yeah, that is not normal. So, I mean, that's I could be wrong. I could be wrong, but that is my intuition that something is kind of fishy. And remember that the economy is still on quantitative easing, so the economy is still on Fed injected money. So it's, a healthy economy should not have any emergency money flooded into it. But there currently still is, so it's not a healthy economy.
Yeah. Or the fact that a medium house, just like not even a nice house, like a starter home, is $1 million.
Yeah, all day.
Like who in the right mind thinks it's okay for a starter house? A starter house is intended for someone right out of college, first job,
right?
Making what, 36 grand a year,
right?
To buy and live in and like then trade up,
right?
Like for $1 million. Like, has anyone never done the math on how long it's gonna take to pay off $1 million mortgage?
Yep.
Making 36 grand a year. It's just like, it's not possible.
Yep. I remember saying this in the 07. Okay. So I screwed up. I remember thinking it was a bubble in 06, 05, 07. I actually thought it was a bubble for a long time. When the crash happened, I remember my uncle at the time was telling me, you should buy a house. And I was overconfident and I'm like, no. I told him the housing market just crashed. It was actually, he was right. I was wrong, but the housing market just crashed. And I was like, people aren't that dumb. They're not like, a lot of people lost their homes. They're not that stupid. It's not going to reinflate again. It fucking reinflated again. And like, I was like, people lost their homes. Like on the news, people are like, oh, we lost our homes. You have no place to live. I'm like, people aren't going to reinflate this bubble. They're not going to buy back in and do this shit all over again. And that's exactly what they did. And I was wrong. I should have bought then. But I didn't. I did end up buying later on, but I did miss out on a lot of appreciation because I was like, the housing market crashed. This is the native state. This is where it should be. It's not going to go anywhere anytime soon because all these people lost their homes. People aren't that stupid. They're not going to do it. And they did it. And they did it quick. They did it with the quickness.
Yeah. And I don't even want to say people are stupid. I think what it is people kind of do what other people do. And especially when you're living in a society where like it just becomes normal. It's like, oh, this is normal life. So this, like, why question it? Everyone else is doing it. This is how it is. And people end up doing stupid things.
Yeah, I guess that's the definition of the bubble behavior, right? I mean, everyone talks about the tulip crisis that happened a long time ago in Holland, and that's like the reference that all economists relate to, the tulip crisis. But I don't know. I mean, nobody knows. I could be totally wrong, and like we could be just doing great, but it smells weird to me.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the best things about living in a cheap place like Thailand or being location independent, having freedom, having less stuff is those things don't really affect us that much. I remember when 2009 hit, there was a huge, crisis, right? Yeah. I was living on a small island in Thailand, in Koh Tao.
That's cool.
I was living in a bamboo hut for, I think, like maybe, I don't know, less than let's say $200 a month or something, right? And it didn't affect me.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I didn't even pay attention to it.
Wow.
And I remember like people were freaking out talking about it, and I was just like, what are you guys even talking about? What's happening?
Yeah.
And I wonder, not even if, but when that happens again, like either one or two things are going to happen. One is I'm just going to lay low in living a cheap, comfortable life somewhere and just like, not spend anything stupid money. Maybe I won't make as much money those years, but I'll just kind of relax. Mm-hmm. Or maybe I'll have enough in savings to be like, all right, let's swoop up some deals.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that because in doing our calculation for moving to Thailand, because we didn't just pick up and move. Like I don't roll like that. Like we sit down and we ran numbers and everything. And, we've been in Thailand for almost a month now. So we just left. And, I was talking to my girlfriend. I'm like, look, babes, everything's at all-time highs right now. The market's at all-time highs. Real estate's at all-time highs. It's kind of an uninvestable market right now. Anyways, if you're going to buy anything, stock, real estate, you're going to buy it expensive. And so I'm like, there is no value to being here in the United States right now. If anything, we can duck out to Thailand for a year, hang out, and I'm going to watch America while I'm here. If it burns down, I'm coming back to buy. That's my mentality. And the crazy shit is that by living in Thailand for a year and saving the money that we're saving every month, I can earn interest on that money. So when we ran the numbers, we figured out that we could come to Thailand, we could save money, live here for a year, unlimited, doing whatever we wanted. And when we came back to the States, we would have more money than if we had just stayed in the States. And so that was kind of the grind, right? I'm like, look, let's let this bubble ride itself out. Hopefully in a year something happens. Maybe not, but there's no value in being here for a year because everything I'm doing is just going to be expensive. I'm not going to be saving any money. If we move to Thailand, we can be racking money. We can be earning interest on that money. And then if something burns down or something bad happens, we can come back and capitalize on that opportunity.
And if it doesn't, you enjoyed a great year of being in Thailand.
We lose nothing. And if it doesn't happen, we stayed in Thailand, we enjoyed a great year, and we have more money than if we had stayed in the States. It was impossible to lose.
I'm curious about some of those calculations. Like, what were you spending for rent back in LA? Like, what were some of those numbers?
So, we had a great deal. We lived in a kind of expensive part of town, Sherman Oaks. It was, just over the hill from UCLA. And, our unit was leasing for like, $3,000 a month. I had been in that unit for 10 years. And so we were paying like $2,300 a month for that unit. So we're paying $2,300 on that. And our eat out cost was really expensive just because we were spending a lot of money. And then our grocery cost was expensive I never really shopped at Whole Foods. Like one time I did because I was really sick and I walked to Whole Foods to get some coconut water and like a bowl of soup. And I never did that again because my bill was like $30 and I never did that again. So we just shopped at like, normal shopping. We were pretty conservative. We didn't spend, but going out to dinner with friends every Friday night, me and some friends would meet up. We go have sushi. We go have some Din Tai Fung or whatever, eat some good food. And, that'd be, $40-$50 a head. We go out, for a drink once a month, and so, yeah, it still added up, car insurance and having a car and gasoline and all that stuff, electric bill, internet, our internet bill. We had internet, HBO, Netflix, cable TV, fast internet because I like to play StarCraft. And so, it was like $150, $180 a month.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
How many megabytes up and down did you have?
I don't remember. I was like, give me like the second fastest speed.
Okay.
And so that's what I did. And then
So I have super fast internet here, 100 megs down, 30 megs, 40 megs up. It's, I think, $17 a month.
Yeah.
No contract.
Yeah, we were paying that. Yeah, we were in contract too.
My cell phone here, I have, I think, like 8 gigs of 4G. I think it's $15 a month. No contract.
Wow.
What were you paying back home?
So yeah, it's funny. So I know our HBO cost was like $35 or $40 a month just for HBO. Netflix was about like $10 or $12, whatever it was. And yeah, like water and power was up there too. It wasn't too bad actually. Our unit wasn't very big. It was like 900 square feet, so it wasn't too big.
How much was that then?
I'd say during the summer months for our unit, maybe like $200 for 2 months, or maybe $250 for 2 months in the summer months, and then maybe like under 100 a month, maybe to 100. So.
Yeah, but like this is adding up, right?
Yeah, and so in reality, we probably spend like I don't know, car insurance, health. Because again, I'm an entrepreneur, so we have to buy my own health. Like my health insurance is like $350 a month. It adds up. Cell phones, have like an unlimited plan because I live off my phone, so that's not cheap either. I don't really know what it is. It's probably like $80 to $100 a month. Easily eating out and everything. I'd say, my credit card bills could. Well, it's hard to say because, I do mix them up with like attorneys and stuff, but, you could say you'd spend an easy like $3,000 to $3,500 a month just on kind of ancillary expenses, meaning food, eating out, all that stuff. Yeah.
And that's not including $2,300 for rent, which was a good deal compared to.
Yeah, it was a good deal because every time they raised the rent, I was like, fuck this place. We're leaving. I go on Craigslist and look down the street and see the same unit going for $3,000. I'm like, okay, we're staying.
Yeah. And then I'm sure did you have a car payment or gas?
Yeah. We had, gas. I didn't have a car payment, but maintenance. I had a German car and that was expensive. And, so yeah, it adds up.
It's crazy, right? Cause it's like, it's almost normal to spend $4,000, $5,000 a month. Yeah. Especially as a couple. Mm-hmm. And what
I guess that is for a couple, but not really. That's primarily my expense. Cause me and my girlfriend would eat out, but then that bill also includes me eating out on my own because she goes to work and
And then here, like, what are you paying for rent?
We are paying about 16,500 baht a month, and we're moving to a place which is considered really, really expensive for the locals. Like, there are essentially no locals in the building that we're moving to, but that's 20,000 baht a month, which I don't know what that works out to.
It's like $600. About
$600. For, me and my girlfriend, we split it. It's like 300. And this is, now you can see, like, me and my girlfriend, like, if we got, it's got like a beautiful pool. It's a brand new building and we're paying 600. Me and my girlfriend split. We're paying 300 each. Now you can see how living in Thailand for a year, we can end up with more money than if we had stayed in America because you just heard what our rough expenses were for the month.
Well, all right. So here's a question that everyone has is, Like, let's say just your apartment, right? Do you feel like it's a sacrifice coming here and living in that apartment versus your old apartment? Or do you think there's like benefits, like better location? Like, did you have a pool, your old one? Like, how do you compare the two the apartments?
Yeah, that's okay. So the apartment we're moving to, or even the apartment we're living at here in Chiang Mai, and the apartment we're moving to, it's probably equivalent to like a $35,000 to $4,000 apartment in downtown LA. And I'm comparing the two because we're in Niman, which is like the fanciest area in Chiang Mai, and it's kind of equivalent to like an expensive place in LA, which would be like downtown LA or the West Side. And so, this building with, guard gated security, water delivery service, full amenities, pool, rooftop stuff, all that stuff would, easily cost you $3,500 to $4,000, depending on how upscale you wanted to go.
So it's like, do you feel like you're downgrading
Hell
your life?
No, we're actually upgrading our life. Like, our quality of living has increased, and even forget all the physical, increases in quality of life, the mental burden of, not bearing the mental burden of expenses where things kind of almost become like monopoly money. That is a very big relief. Like, not having these crushing, bills, knowing that we can eat out 2 people for $3 to $5, knowing we can eat out at every single meal and not really even look at the bill and not really worry, just order. Imagine like, living where you are and ordering exactly everything that you wanted and living exactly where you wanted, not where you live now. Like, if you want to live in a high rise, which is what we're doing, living, in a building with guard gated security and a rooftop pool and cabanas and eating out all the time. Imagine having that life and not worrying about the money. That's essentially what it is for us right now. It just happens to be in Thailand, which I like, because I even said if I would have won the lottery, I would still move to Thailand, Chiang Mai, because it's just a different experience anyways, right? And aren't you tired of like going to Starbucks every day? Like, how many times can you do that a day,
Yeah. I like it. So stop going to Starbucks in your home country. Come to a great local coffee shop here.
Yeah, man.
Coffee's amazing out here, actually.
It is amazing. It's great. And the food is great and the quality of living is there. And yeah, it's definitely been a good move. And it's funny because coming here, I'm actually like trying to make moves now to move out of LA permanently after seeing this sort of thing. And something that was really amazing too is we went to a comedy night a few nights ago that Johnny was performing at, and it seems that a lot of people are really well traveled here. It's really weird because when I was at that comedy show, people were like, oh, I was in like China for 3 months and I moved here, and it's a very different sort of community. It's a transient community, and because of that, I feel like they're really kind of worldly and educated and view the world in a very different light. And it's a very different group of people. And, back in LA, a lot of my friends were chasing careers and stuff. So it's just a different flavor of people. And it's amazing that in LA, or in my circle, it didn't really exist, but here they're everywhere. It's like just knowing where to go, and you can tap into this like huge network of people that kind of have a similar mindset and lifestyle is very interesting. And it might not be for you, but it's worth giving a shot.
Yeah, I love it. Well, I'm glad you gave it a shot. I'm glad you reached out.
Absolutely.
Glad you're out here and on the podcast. I think it's really valuable for people to listen to, what it's like kind of in the beginning to make those big moves.
Yeah.
I'm sure it wasn't easy to sell your stuff and make that leap, but so far, good.
Yeah, it took work. And it's funny because doing it is so stressful and you're so worried and you're wondering if you made the wrong decision. And we've been here for a month now, and looking back, those worries seem really ridiculous. And it's just very interesting.
What were some of those worries?
Is this really the right move? Taking a year off work, or for my girlfriend who has a career, it's like, will I have a job when we come back? Is this worth the sacrifice? She got lucky and she got a sabbatical, so she has a job when she gets back. But is this just like, are we going to be wasting a year? Is this kind of a foolish move? And it was those sort of issues. And then there's also like the physical issues of actually just selling stuff or getting rid of stuff. And, I don't like getting rid of a lot of stuff because, we spent good money on it, and it's hard to see it go when you spend good money on it. So the physical act of just like, throwing away your clothes, that have no value anymore. And it's just like, oh man, it sucks. And so there are a lot of these stresses. But I think the biggest thing was this the right move? Here, I mean, it's so easy to look back and know the answer, but going forwards, it's very difficult because really all the hard work is right at that point. Yeah. Leaving is where all the hard work is. Once you're here, and if you've got a little bit of money it gets easier. Like, I mean, it gets to a point. And another thing that we're worried about is like, if you come here, will you get trapped here? You know, like, will you just like love this lifestyle? But I mean, if I do end up staying here, or if I do end up coming back, it won't be because I'm trapped. It's because it was a great move and I want to do it again. And that's why I'd be here.
And did you get any pushback at all from your like family or your friends?
No, you know, I don't know. I mean, we went to Bangkok. The way we discovered this place, we ended up in Bangkok in December, and that's when I was like, oh my God, this place is like amazing. And, I told them about it. And so I don't know if they gave pushback just because when I got back in January, I was like, man, Bangkok is amazing. It's so cheap. Like, things are just great out there. You have access to all the same services. You know, any sort of perception that the quality of life that you're getting is not as good in Asia is racism. Like that. I mean, I joke with my friends about it. Like, oh, like you go to a Thai doctor. Like, I haven't been to a Thai doctor, but from what I hear and what I've seen so far, the healthcare is the same. Right. And
if anything, it's better. They have more time to spend with you.
Mm-hmm. I've seen some really amazing like videos about the healthcare, and people are like, oh, you can go live in huts. We come here, man. They got like 4K or 4D theaters where they serve, like, they have waiters here. They serve you people have this kind of misconception that the quality of life is lower, but to be honest, that shit is just racist, bro. Cause it's not. Like, why would I do that? I mean, I have the ability to not, like, I don't need to reduce my quality of life, but I'm here anyways, right? And that says something, you know?
I like it.
Why would I move here to like worsen, like what? Like, that makes no sense, you know?
I mean, but I actually like the fact that if we really wanted to bootstrap and we wanted to live on $600 a month and live in like a really basic apartment.
Oh man.
It's possible.
Oh, all day.
Yeah.
It's all day. Like, there were worries about, my girlfriend was a little worried about money, and, she's like essentially taking a sabbatical, so she's not earning an income. And we got here, and, she was like, I'm like, babe, if you want, we can stay in like a bootstrappy place, a place that's like a little bit more bare, but it's cheaper. And like, in the blink of an eye, she ended up scaling up to like basically the nicest thing you could buy here. Or
because
the nicest
you can, and it's still cheap.
Right. Cause it's like, it's, what's the word for it? It's basically economies of scale, right? Like, you could bootstrap and, you could pay, $300 for a room, but if you can spend $600, you can have a much higher quality of life. So it depends on what you're going for. If you want to bootstrap, that's cool. Like, there's definitely a time and place for that. But for incrementally more money, you can just live very, very comfortably. So it's like, what's to you? Is $300 worth it to save to live in luxury versus living kind of more bare bones? So it's really up to you on how you want to live your life. But for us, it was like, I mean, $300, we'd blow that on like, a meal or two in LA. So of course we're going to choose like a much nicer place for that $300. So it's kind of economies of scale type thing,
Nice. I'm super curious to follow up in a year and see if you're, if what you're thinking. If you thought, oh man, that was a complete waste, or that was the best move of my life, or if you're still here, what do you? I know it's only been a few weeks or a month.
Yeah.
But what do you think you're going to predict?
I would place a heavy bet on the fact that I wouldn't regret it. Like, I mean, I don't understand how. I really don't. Like, the longer we're here, again, economies of scale, the longer we're here, the more money we save. So if we stayed for like a year, again, we'd have more money than if we had lived in the States. And I've had a lot of already amazing experience. I met Johnny. That was pretty cool, meeting like a lot of new people. And it's kind of impacted my worldview on things, and seeing that there are lots of worlds that exist right in front of our eyes, but we just have to know where to look. And so it's just, a lot of life lessons. And it's definitely considering that I'm essentially not paying anything for this experience, because when I come back, I'll have more money than when I left. There's no loss that I foresee so far.
I love it. So I hope to see all of you guys out here. Come out to the next Nomad Summit. It's going to be January 19th, 2019. You can get early bird tickets at nomadsummit.com. Get your ticket and make it a plan to say, I'm going to be in Chiang Mai in January no matter what. I'm going to make it happen. Come meet, all these cool people. And, who knows? You might come out here, love it, and then go back with more money than you would have had. So really, it's a win-win situation.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's definitely worth to come out. Even if you don't have a lot of money, just come out and bootstrap it. Just get a taste of it. Just come for like a month. If you don't like it, that Starbucks will be there at that corner.
Yeah, I promise. All right. See you guys next week. Thanks so much, and stay bossy. All right, bosses, I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. It was super fun to talk about and to be back in Chiang Mai. I want to give a quick shout out and thank you again to our sponsor, Hypath. If you guys haven't checked them out, I highly encourage traveling with carry-on luggage only as much as possible, especially if you're traveling around a lot. So check out the unique design. It's kind of cool. It's a 2-in-1. You can roll it, you can carry it, and it's on Amazon.com. Just search for HYPATH, and you can use the coupon code JohnnyFD when checking out. Also want to give a big thank you to everyone who's been leaving these great reviews of the podcast on iTunes and everywhere else. It really helps. I know it's kind of a pain in the butt to leave a review on iTunes, but I promise you it helps so much. It helps more people reach this podcast, more people, become digital nomads because of the show, and for you sharing it with your friends and for rating it so it just, pops up higher in the rankings. This week I want to say thank you to Jangle Rooster. He says, perfect mix of business and travel, 5 stars. Johnny is great with his authenticity and transparency, very motivating and informative. If you're looking for insight into running online businesses, working remotely, and traveling the world, I listen to at least 1 episode per day while trying to catch up on all the old episodes. So thanks again, and I'll see all of you next week. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to the Travel Like a Boss podcast. If you want to hear more, including the bonus, How to Choose the Perfect Niche episode, join our mailing list at travellikeabosspodcast.com. See you next week, and remember, if you want to travel like a boss, you need to be your own boss. So start your online business today and start living the lifestyle you've always dreamed of.